My name is Claire, and this is the story of how everything I thought I knew about love, family, and truth shattered in ways I never imagined. I'm 29 years old. I used to think my life was almost perfect, or at least, that it was supposed to be. I had the kind of relationship everyone envied. Or maybe they just pretended to envy it. But the truth was, behind the filtered pictures and sweet anniversary posts, there was something growing. Something rotting beneath the surface. I just didn't know it yet. It started on the morning of my birthday. I remember waking up to the soft hum of my phone buzzing. I smiled. I expected a message from him, from Ethan, the man I had spent the last 6 years with. He was the first real love of my life. The man who had held me through every failure, cheered for every win, promised forever, in ways that felt so permanent. But when I unlocked my screen, there was no message from him. Nothing. Not a single word. At first, I thought maybe he was planning something. He'd always been thoughtful. He never missed my birthdays. So I shook it off. I went about my morning, made my coffee, scrolled through Instagram, laughed at a reel or two, and even got a few texts from friends and my little sister, Emily. But still, silence from Ethan by noon. I started to feel the weight in my chest. That kind of heavy silence that wraps around your lungs and squeezes slowly. You try to brush it off. You try to stay calm. But something deep in your gut whispers, something's not right. I picked up my phone and texted him. Morning. Are you okay? Haven't heard from you today. No reply. Not for 15 minutes. Then 30. Then an hour. I remember pacing around my apartment like a fool, still wearing my silk robe, trying to convince myself that maybe he was just caught up at work. Maybe he was planning a surprise. Maybe he was just being Ethan. He had been distant lately, sure. He had cancelled dinner plans twice in the past week. He said work was overwhelming. He was burned out. I believed him, or I wanted to, but by 3 p.m., something snapped inside me. I called him, straight to voicemail. I called again, same thing. So I did what no sane girlfriend should do on her birthday. I got in my car, drove across the city, and pulled up outside his apartment. The curtains were drawn. The lights were off, but his car was there. I remember sitting in my car, staring up at his window, just waiting. My fingers trembling over the steering wheel. I didn't know what I was hoping to see. Him rushing out with flowers. A big happy birthday sign. Maybe even a proposal. Yeah, I was that delusional. But what I got was a gut punch I will never forget. At 4:12 p.m. The front door opened, Ethan stepped out, in sweatpants and a hoodie, and right behind him was a girl. A tall blonde girl with messy hair, wearing his oversized hoodie. She kissed him, and just like that, my world collapsed. He didn't see me. Or maybe he did, and he didn't care. Either way, I felt something crack deep inside my ribcage. Like my heart had been ripped in half. And I was watching it bleed, in slow motion. I didn't cry. Not then. I just sat in silence. Hand clenched around my phone, watching them walk to his car. Laughing like nothing in the world mattered. Like I didn't matter. And do you know what the worst part was? That girl wasn't just some random stranger. Her name was Haley. She was my best friend. The same girl who had helped me pick out gifts for Ethan. The same girl who had stayed over last month and asked me if I thought he was the one. The same girl who had cried with me after my miscarriage last year. Yeah, that Haley. I don't remember the drive home. I think I blacked out emotionally. I just remember sitting on my couch, staring at the wall, replaying everything like a horror. movie. I couldn't pause. Every moment, every lie, every fake smile. And I knew, in that moment, I had two choices. I could either disappear into the darkness, or I could become the storm. I chose the storm. It was strange how a smile could become your greatest disguise. The morning after the wedding debacle, I walked into my apartment with the dress still clinging to my skin, mascara clumped under my eyes, and a metallic taste of humiliation that hadn't left my mouth. My phone buzzed. 15 unread messages from Mom, 2 from Aunt Harriet, and 1 from my cousin Miles, simply reading, "That was low, Claire. Low. You invite me, parade me around like a trophy, then sit me at a corner table behind a damn column, and I'm the one who's low." I laughed out loud, dry and sharp. The kind of laugh that bounces back from empty walls and tells you you're alone. For the next few days, I let silence answer everything. I didn't respond to their calls. I didn't text back. I didn't show up to Sunday dinner. Instead, I watched my apartment sink into a quiet I hadn't known I needed. I made tea, worked from home, slept with my phone on silent. But behind that peace, my thoughts raced. I wasn't just angry. I wasn't just hurt. I was planning. You see, something snapped that night. Not like a twig under a boot, no. More like a dam cracking at the seams. Years of overlooked birthdays, stolen credits, double standards. All those times my ideas were too bold, until Noah rephrased them, and suddenly, they were brilliant. All the family holidays where I was the backup, the second thought. The one who brought wine instead of being toasted to. It wasn't jealousy. It was survival. And now, I wanted clarity. I wanted justice, not the petty kind, the poetic kind, so I started digging. Noah wasn't just a golden boy. He was sloppy. And when someone's never been held accountable, they don't clean up their digital footprints. Late one night, with nothing but my lamp and a chilled glass of Chardonnay, I opened his LinkedIn, then his wife Hannah's. I scrolled, I screenshotted, I archived. I wasn't entirely sure what I was looking for, but I knew it would present itself, and then it did. A comment thread buried in an old university alumni group post. Someone had tagged Noah in a blast from the past photo, a picture from 2015, 2 years before he supposedly met Hannah. In the thread below, an old classmate asked, "This the trip where you and Jen got caught skipping that ethics seminar?" Noah replied, "LMAO. Brew. I forgot about that. Me and Jen, almost got expelled." Jen. I sat back in my chair. Jen wasn't just a name. Jen was Hannah's best friend. The same best friend who gave the toast at their wedding. The same woman who tearfully said, "You two are soulmates," while holding a champagne glass and shaking hands. Oh, Claire. I didn't sleep that night. My mind spun stories, truths, tangled in lies. The betrayal wasn't just familial anymore. It was deeper, more layered. This wasn't just about me being overlooked. This was about a house built on secrets. I knew I had to tread carefully, so I did. I went back to the wedding footage, yes, the one my mother paid to be live-streamed, like some budget royal gala. I scrolled through the comments section, hidden between all the congrats. And beautiful couple was one that simply read, "Can't believe she forgave him." It had no likes, no replies, just ... sat there. I clicked on the profile, private, no photo, but the bio said, "Just passing through." Anonymous, but clearly someone with a bone to pick. At this point, I wasn't just seeking revenge. I was unearthing a rotten foundation. But I didn't want to blow it all up in rage. I wanted precision. I wanted them to feel what I had felt for years: dismissed, misunderstood, exposed. I gathered everything: the screenshots, the video timestamps, the financial inconsistencies. In the wedding registry, yes. I went there, one of Noah's friends jokingly said in a group chat I still had access to. Dudes broke as hell but throwing a $40,000 party. I archived it all neatly in a folder on my desktop. Labeled it Clarity. My therapist would have said I was spiraling. But honestly, it felt more like waking up. A week later, Mom showed up at my door, unannounced. She held a bag of groceries in one hand and disappointment in the other. "You're really going to ghost us over some seating chart?" I blinked at her. "It wasn't about the seating, Mom. You're always so dramatic. And you're always so dismissive." Silence. She stepped inside without permission, like always, and started unpacking the groceries. Organic strawberries. Oat milk. Those weird crackers I told her I hated 3 years ago. She hadn't changed. "You know," she said, not looking at me, "your brother's going to be a father." My heart stopped. "What? Hannah's pregnant. They wanted to wait to tell you in person." "Sure," I said, swallowing rage. "Because I'm always the last to know, right?" "Oh, Claire, don't make this about you." She said it so icily. Like it wasn't the story of my life. That night, I opened the folder labeled Clarity again, stared at it. My finger hovered over the share button. But I didn't click it, not yet. I wanted the timing to be ... perfect. I didn't sleep the night my mother told me Hannah was pregnant. Not because I was heartbroken, not because I was jealous, but because I couldn't stop thinking, if they were about to bring a child into the world, shouldn't someone make sure the truth came first? I sat at my desk, moonlight spilling through the window like a spotlight, my cursor still hovering over the share button on that folder. Clarity. Every time I looked at the name, I remembered the ache in my chest, not from heartbreak, but from decades of pretending things didn't hurt when they did. But I wasn't impulsive. Never was. That was Noah's trait: reckless, charismatic, thoughtless. The kind of person who could wreck a room with charm and still be applauded. For the mess. I was surgical, so I didn't send it that night. I sent a message instead. To Jen. It was simple. Clean. Just a screenshot of Noah's comment about their almost expulsion, with one line underneath: "Did Hannah ever find out?" I didn't expect her to respond, but she did. 15 minutes later, I saw the typing dots appear, then disappear, then reappear. Finally, a message: "I can't do this." And then, another: "Please, don't tell her, please." That was all the confirmation I needed. Jen wasn't just guilty. She was terrified. Terrified enough to beg the family pariah for silence. It was almost poetic. But I didn't want to hurt Hannah. I wanted the truth to surface naturally, not forced through a screen. I wanted everyone to see what I saw, without me having to say a single word, so I changed tactics. Over the next few days, I began dropping breadcrumbs. Not accusations, just observations. At Sunday dinner, which I finally attended, much to everyone's awkward relief, I sat across from Noah and Hannah. She was glowing. He was smug. I was patient. I picked up a wedding photo off the shelf. "You know," I said, running my finger along the frame, "I've always wondered how you two met. Was it really that random?" Hannah smiled. "He says we met at a charity mixer in 17. I barely remember it." Noah grinned, sipping wine. "Love, at first slight buzz." I looked him in the eye. "Funny. I could have sworn I saw a Facebook Post of you two back in 2015. He choked, actually choked, and fumbled his glass. Hannah turned to him. Wait, what? He recovered quickly. Ah, she's probably mixing it up. Claire, you always had a bad memory for dates. I smiled. Only when people lie about them. Silence. Hannah looked between us. That was breadcrumb 1. Breadcrumb 2 was for my mother. She'd been complaining about the rising cost of things, as usual, and mentioned how generous it was of me to contribute to Noah's baby shower. I didn't. I said. She blinked. Of course you did. Noah said you Venmo'd him $500. I didn't. Her smile faded. But he told us. I know what he told you. That night, she called me twice. I didn't pick up. Let them sit in it. Let the doubt grow. I released the third breadcrumb. In the family WhatsApp group, the one I had muted years ago but never left a decision, I now saw as divine preparation. It was a screenshot from the alumni group. Noah's comment about Jen and the ethics seminar. I didn't say anything else. Just uploaded the image with the caption, "Wow, what a memory." Within 5 minutes, my Aunt Dina replied, "Is that Jen?" As in Hannah's Jen, my cousin dropped a shocked emoji. Noah left the group. And that was when I knew. I didn't need to burn the house down. I just needed to show people where the matches were stored. But things escalated faster than I expected. 2 days later, Hannah called me. "Claire," she said, voice brittle, "I know we've never been close, but I need to ask you something." Woman to woman. My stomach dropped. Did something happen between Noah and Jen? I paused, took a breath. "Hannah, I think you already know the answer." There was silence, then a broken sob, and then she hung up. I didn't feel victorious. I felt free. What happened next was the kind of family chaos you couldn't script. Jen ghosted everyone. Deleted her socials. Noah showed up at my apartment at midnight, banging on the door like a madman. I didn't open it. He screamed through the door, "You're sick. You've always been jealous." I sat on the floor inside, sipping tea. He wasn't wrong. I had been jealous for years, but not of what he had, of what he never had to work for. The next morning, my mother called again. This time crying. "You destroyed your brother," she said. "Why?" I didn't raise my voice. Didn't cry. I simply said, "Because you never let him be responsible for what he broke." She didn't speak after that. In the weeks that followed, the family ecosystem shifted. My name wasn't just tolerated now, it was whispered, cautiously, like fire. Noah moved out of the house he shared with Hannah. The baby news was never posted on Instagram. My aunt sent me a message, oddly respectful, asking if I'd like to join the planning committee for Grandma's 80th birthday. I declined. I wasn't hungry for inclusion anymore. I was full of something else. Clarity, and for the first time in my life. I celebrated my birthday alone, but it didn't feel like loneliness. It felt like power. I bought myself a small cake, lit a single candle, took a photo, just for me. No captions, no hashtags, just a quiet moment of rebirth. Happy 33rd, Claire. You didn't burn bridges. You just stopped walking toward the ones that always led you in circles. I didn't expect peace to feel so quiet. It's strange how silence used to scare me. How I once needed the hum of someone else's validation to feel like I existed. But that was before the facade fell. Before the family I once tried so hard to please revealed just how hollow their praise was. Before I realized that the loudest approval often comes from the most fragile egos. Now, in this quiet, I was starting to hear myself for the first time. After everything came out, Noah's past with Jen, the fabricated love story, the baby that was either a mistake or a bribe, people stopped pretending. That was the unexpected gift. There were no more strained smiles at dinners, no more we should catch up texts that never meant anything. I wasn't frozen out anymore. I was simply released. I had become a mirror no one wanted to look into. Not because I was cruel, but because I reflected their choices too clearly, and so I gave everyone the space they needed to avoid me. Even Hannah. I hadn't spoken to her since the day she called crying. I thought about reaching out often, actually, but something always stopped me. Maybe it was pride, maybe fear. Maybe the quiet was too sacred now to risk with half-hearted apologies. Instead, I wrote her a letter. I never sent it, but I wrote it. It said, "Hannah, I never wanted to hurt you. I wanted the truth to catch up with the people who used it like currency. If I'm honest, I think I always envied how you loved without suspicion. It's something I never learned how to. Do I hope this pain you're carrying isn't permanent? And I hope one day you find a love that doesn't come with footnotes." Claire folded the letter and tucked it in the back of a drawer. Not everything needs an audience. A few months later, I got a job offer. It was for a digital strategy firm in Copenhagen, a city I'd never been to, a language I didn't speak, and a time zone that would make family calls almost impossible. It was perfect. I took it without hesitation. My mother didn't say anything when I told her, not a single question, just a cold, "Good luck," then. That night, I laughed harder than I had in years. Not because it was funny, but because I finally saw the absurdity. I had spent my entire life trying to win the approval of someone who couldn't even fake joy for her own daughter's success. Letting go wasn't dramatic. It was relief. Packing up my apartment felt less like leaving and more like molting. I donated bags of old dresses I used to wear to family functions, each one a costume for a role I no longer played. I found birthday cards from Noah, scribbled with platitudes. I threw them out without a pause. There was no bitterness left in me. Just an ache, not the kind that hurts, but the kind that reminds you you're alive. I boarded the plane with no one waving goodbye at the gate. And that was okay, because for the first time, I wasn't leaving anything behind. I was taking myself somewhere new. Copenhagen was beautiful, not in the postcard way, though it had its charms, but in the quiet rhythm of its people. The way strangers greeted you with soft smiles. The way bike bells became the city's lullaby. The way no one knew my past. And so my name wasn't tied to any whispered scandal. I became someone else here. Not a different person. Just, finally, myself. I started journaling again. Not as therapy, but as record of the meals I made from scratch. The books I finished. The days I cried just because the sunset was too perfect. I began to understand what it meant to build a life, not escape one. And then, one day, I got a message. It was from Hannah. It just said, "I heard you left, I hope you're okay." I stared at it for a long time, then replied, "I'm more than okay. I'm becoming." She didn't reply. But I didn't need her to. The next morning, I walked to the harbor, sat with a coffee in hand, and watched the water. A mother walked by with her toddler in a stroller. I smiled at the sound of their laughter. It wasn't mine, but it didn't have to be. I realized then that I didn't need to rewrite the past. I didn't need revenge, or closure, or even justice. I just needed the freedom to tell my own version of the story. So here it is. I was never the bitter sister. I was the girl who spent 32 years trying to be small enough to be loved. And now, I'm done shrinking. My name is Claire. And this is how I saved myself.